When you're out there knocking around in the real world and you're running into that old crusty dude, he's got some tattoos of Marines or the infantry or whatever, you might want to have a little bit of caution for the old man who got old in a profession where men die young. Hello everybody, Terrence Popp here with another episode of Live from the Lair. Alright, now today I'm going to be going over a couple of Army stories and some philosophy. I got probably 150, 200 comments and emails in regards to more Army stories. And I promised, I would make videos as more of them came to light, because I'm sure I have thousands of them that are floating around in my thinking meat that I just haven't got to yet. But we will continue as they pop into my brain pan. Now, I believe I made a video similar to this like 2 years ago, but I'm going to go into a little bit more in depth. There were some emails that wanted me to talk about the difference between the old dogs and the noobs. All right, now what I'm saying is, once you've been in the military for a certain period of time, I don't know exactly when it happens, but at one point you look around and you're the only dude that's still there. Like all of the guys you came into the Army with or you served with in your younger years, a large majority of them just get out and go do other things with their life, which is fine. And then everyone looks at you as the old dog. All right, now, number one. All right, now this isn't true across the board, but you will see more common sense in the soldiers who've been around for a while than you will with the ones that, just show up. I've seen a lot of old NCOs that are nothing but yes men, and you can tell that mentality relatively quickly, and you should probably disregard them and treat them like a noob no matter how long they've been in, because the yes men mentality fills body bags, wastes resources and time. So you don't need that. I'm gonna tell you a story here about the common sense thing. I'm in Iraq with my company, and we are going out on a relatively long convoy. We're running security for a larger convoy. It's in the goddamn desert. I mean, the vehicles are for the most part fucking that old, forced camo pattern, so you're not hiding that in the desert. Because in 2004, a lot of the stuff that was there was stuff that was on hand at the time, and it wasn't prepared or painted for the desert environment. So we're taking a company plus, and I believe it's like a 6.5 hour drive there and another one back, so it was an overnight thing. I believe we're going to Modification, and everyone is putting on their camouflage, and they're painting all these crazy green and darker green patterns on their face. And I'm looking around, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that because it's fucking stupid. So I got my day pack, I got my fucking vest on, I got my weapon, I'm walking out to the vehicle to get in. And the commander looks at me and goes, why don't you camo your face? And I'm like, all right, I'll be right with you, sir. So I go, pull out a tube of white zinc oxide, and I put it under my eyes, and on the bridge of my nose, and the forehead, and around my mouth. And I just walk back out there. And all the dudes are like, oh yeah, woo! They're just laughing at me. But I know that putting camouflage on your face in that regard it's pointless, number one. And two, the only reason I put the zinc oxide on is I didn't want to burn up my baby face. And the commander looks at me and goes, God. He didn't say anything else. We just get in the vehicle and we go and do our deal. Now, on that particular day, nothing much happened. I believe we spent the night at Modification, and there was a whole bunch of mortar attacks, and they were doing counter battery fire, which was greatly appreciated on my part, but that's neither here nor there. All right, number two, Article 15s and court-martials. and other various forms of punishment. When you've been around long enough, you realize there are some things that need to be punished and some things that don't. And you can also grade the level of the punishment on, basically what happened. So in this particular story, I was the first sergeant. I had an internal scuffle between one of the platoon sergeants and one of his squad leaders or team leaders. It was a Lair op, so. Well, there was a lot of pressure. We're getting mortared, 3 to 5 times a day. There's ambushes, gunfire. I mean, it was the wild, wild west. And this particular platoon sergeant, well, he was wired really tight, and the pressure was getting to him. And for whatever reason, tempers were flaring that day, and the team leader basically told the platoon sergeant in front of God and everyone and yelled it at a very, loud tone basically to fuck off. All right, now I didn't hear about any of this until I get called in to talk to the commander in regards to giving this team leader an Article 15. They're going to take 1 stripe away from him, bust him down from 5 to 4 and 2 months pay. I mean, they're giving him the full boat press. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You want to take an E5 who is a team leader and reduce him in rank 1 grade and take 2 months pay for telling his platoon sergeant to fuck off. Just want to hear it for myself. And the commander's like, yeah, that's lack of discipline. We can't do that. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Whoa. Let's just rewind the tape a little bit. We're going to do this again. We are in a combat zone. All we're going to get is what we got. And you're going to hand out an Article 15 and screw this guy's life up. He'll probably lose his house over it. And then you expect all kinds of order and discipline and morale not to go into the toilet for the remainder of our time if you start doing this. And he's just like, looks around because he knows I'm right. And then I'll tell a commander, I'm like, sir, why are you even dealing with this? This is the first time I heard about this. Why don't you let me handle it? And then if it continues on or becomes a problem, then we elevate it to your level because that's how it works. That's another thing old dogs know is they know the procedures. So he's like, all right, well, you handle it. It better not happen again. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I call in the platoon sergeant and the team leader, and I tell the team leader, I'm like, listen, we're going to give you a negative counseling statement because you really can't be telling your platoon sergeant to fuck off in front of God and everybody. Now listen, there are times when you just have to tell someone they need to fuck off, which is fine. But call him in his office, shut the door, and then tell him to fuck off. You don't do it in front of God and everyone. That's just not how it works here. So we're gonna, we write up the negative counseling statement, he signs it, the platoon sergeant signs it, I tell the platoon sergeant to leave, and then it's my turn to sign it. So I pull out a box of Crayola crayons, and I sign it in blue crayon, and I give him his copy. When I did that, he knew that it was a bunch of bullshit, and I was just going through the motions, and he also knew not to fucking do that again, and to reinforce it, I made him do a road march. Which, at the end of the day, you're not taking away any money, you're not reducing rank or any of that bullshit. You pay in sweat and pain, and you learn your lesson, and it's not ruining anyone's life.
You are not the daughter of a god. And you're not a superhero. You don't have an iron suit. You're 120 pounds soaking wet. You're not some Mary Sue in a film. You want to kick my ass? I'm right here. Kick my ass.
You don't have any guns?
No. I do have a couple of grenades, though.
What?
Always been a rebel.
Are those for real?
What the hell would I be walking around with fake grenades for?
Miss Cortez, do you believe in destiny?
All right, another thing that common sense does is it does the stupid override. I can't tell you how many times I've received, it's countless. I've actually heard commanders and officers tell me shit, and I'm just like, what? And literally I'll be like, all right, whoa, all right, stop. Can you please repeat that to me slowly? I talk about this in my book, The War is the Way Soldier Soul. Sometimes stupid doesn't stick on the first pass. A lot of times they would tell me and then you would see the light bulb go off and go, hey, yeah, this is pretty stupid. Bingo. Let's modify this so people don't die, shall we, sir? Uniform modification. All right, now, listen, I'm all for wearing a uniform so you can be clearly identified and treated accordingly under the Geneva Convention. But let's face it, the uniform, when you're out there doing the deal, might need to be modified compared to the situation that's going on. I played hell with my guys in Iraq over this. I had 3 platoons, 3 different areas, all over Iraq. I had one up there in Mosul. I had one doing patrols on the ground in and around Baghdad. And I had one doing convoy security. And they were under, basically Lair's teams work under the Corps commander. I mean, it's a Corps level asset. And I had acquired a memorandum for record where the men, in those units could modify their uniform to, tailor to the mission they were doing. They only had to be under 670-1, which is the uniform regulation for the military, not 60 to 90 minutes after they come in off mission. And I was getting probably 4 to 6 nasty grams in email a day and 2 or 3 phone calls from where my platoons are located because of this whole uniform thing. So I spent a lot of my time driving around Iraq in the tuna can of death or in the Rhino or in, I jumped in empty seats in convoys that were going around all over Iraq, which is not recommended, to go talk to people. All right, now in this particular instance, I had an E4, good guy, great commo dude. Was he kind of, a little bit flaky? Yeah, from time to time he was, but not in an incompetent way, more just like in a funny, goofy way, so it was acceptable. Well, in Iraq, it's 120, 135 degrees in the daylight in the summer. So this particular soldier liked to roll his sleeves up a couple times, and he had a habit of blocking his hat. Well, there was a couple sergeant first classes in a unit that was surrounding them that kept giving them shit. And it got to the point where the guy out there, one of the team leaders, calls me and says, hey, I need some interference. I need some top cover. First sergeant, could you please come out here? Okay, here we go. I jump in the vehicle, go out there, and I have a sit down with the first sergeant of the unit where these 2 sergeant first classes, operate out of, because that's how it works. I don't go to an NCO in another unit and jump in his shit. I can make on-the-spot corrections, but other than that, I can't jump in their shit. I have to go to their chain of command, and then they jump in their shit. So I talked to the first sergeant, and then I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. Do you know that those guys walking around here are working for the Corps commander? They're a Lair's asset, and they're going out every night and patrolling on foot with 5 to 6 men looking for the baddies and calling in air support and helicopters and doing ambushes and all kinds of wicked, nasty shit. You have several of your NCOs who are riding their asses and making their life difficult. Now, this is what's going to happen for SARM. If this continues, I am going to call the sergeant major underneath the Corps commander and ask him why the fuck I have all these other units interfering with an asset which is under direct control of the Corps commander. I don't want to do that because that causes all kinds of problems, especially, when you follow procedure and you go up to the top and then the shit rattles down and everyone in between knows your fucking business. Well, needless to say, that came to a screeching fucking halt. All right, now this is a personal one for me. wearing all of that armored bullshit, I shouldn't say bullshit because it has saved people's lives. But that's a 18-pound to 21-pound vest if you put all the shit in it with the level 4 ballistic plates. You put it on, and all of that weight is now riding on 4 or 5 discs in your lower back. Well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that after a while, your back is going to fucking wear out. So that's what happened to me. I mean, I came back from Iraq, my back was fucked up. I did acupuncture, I was on codeine and Motrin for about a year, and I knew I was unsustainable, and I took care of it naturally. I think I covered that in another video with the glucosamine, the hydrolonic acid, MSM, vitamin C, and so forth. And I got it to stop hurting all the time. And then I came up with the weightlifting belt that had the old pistol belt, bolted to it. Then I put in the canteens and pockets and stuff. So when I had to go do stuff after that point, I didn't wear shit on the vest. I put the vest on, sealed it up on top of the belt, so all of the weight no longer rid on the bottom 4 discs in my spine. It rested on the belt, the canteens, and other pouches, and all of that weight was now on my hips, which made all the difference in the world. Well, that is not military regulation. And there were quite a few times I had sergeant majors like, hey, Sergeant Popp, you need to take off that belt. It is not authorized. And I would look at these sergeant majors and go, Roger that, Sergeant Major. And then I wouldn't take it off. And it got to the point where one of these sergeant majors took it up to the battalion commander. I had to go in there and tell the battalion commander, listen, if I don't wear this belt, I will not be able to continue because I will be in pain 24/7. And I am not all about getting a spinal fusion anytime soon. And their response was, well, you could get a profile. And I'm like, do you really want me to play the profile game and do all that bullshit? Because I can do that. I can easily outmaneuver you administratively. Or you could just say, hey, leave the old dog alone, let him do his fucking job, and shit'll go smooth. And the battalion commander was like, Sergeant Popp, you are correct. We're going to look the other way on this. You're doing a great job. Drive on. Boom. There you go. Another thing you learn how to do is, I call it hard way, easy way. All right. Now, I'm not telling you to always take the easy way out and not do what you're supposed to do. Not saying that at all. What I'm saying is when they put hard shit in front of you, you have a couple of choices. You can go right up the middle, take maximum punishment, lose maximum resources, or you can do it the smart way. Maneuver, use finesse, look around, use your assets to your advantage. Makes life a lot easier. You gain a lot of respect, and at the end of the day, you have less guilt and possibly shame. And I'm going to give an example. There's a couple situations where, we got the, you're going to do it this way because this is what the battalion commander wants, and I'm not an idiot. I've been in the military a long time, and I knew that we were being set up for a complicated ambush. They were blowing holes in the wall. They were sighting in mortars, and they were smart about it because they would do 1 or 2 rounds at a time, wait 6 to 8 hours, do another 1 or 2 rounds and walk them in. The battalion commander had told our company commander that he could not take the Mark 19s out of the guard towers and move them to the vehicles for the convoy. We were supposed to use organic weapons. Despite the fact, out of the 21 machine guns we had, only 3 were deficient free. And what that means, only 3 were reliable. The other ones, most of the time, you get onesie twosies or single shots out of them, which for a medium machine gun is completely unacceptable because that's not what they're designed to do. Well, it was a hard way. It was a hard mission, and I had to make adjustments to make sure I made it as easy as possible. So I went across the compound, and I believe it was the 272nd MP Company. They were the ones that were responsible for that whole torture thing in Abu at the end of 2003. that went into the national news, and it became an international story. I went in there because at that time I was an E8, triple stacked, you know, combat jump, CIB already. I walk across the compound, just walk in to their supply sergeant, and I say, get your commander, I need to talk to him. So they bring down a major, and I ask him, I'm like, hey, you know, can you look out the window, you see those columns of smoke where those convoys were jumped and destroyed over the past 2 days? Well, my guys are rolling down that way, and I need to hand receipt some Mark 19s from you. And then he looks at me, and he's like, hey, look, you know, we already palletized them, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, sir, are you really telling me that you can't hand receipt me 2 or 3 Mark 19s because you don't want to cut a band on a pallet and open some plastic? Is that what you're telling me? People are going to die because of this. Is that what you're telling me? And of course, when you put it that way, I mean, the guy was like, oh, God, all right, this is what we'll do. We'll give you 2 Mark 19s with the kits, and, you know, it is what it is. So I signed the hand receipt. The supply sergeant, signs the hand receipt, which I still have, and then asked the major, I'm like, hey, you got a Humvee I can borrow? He jumps down my shit. Like, he's like, don't you take that Humvee out there and get it burned up. Nah, nah, nah. So their supply sergeant, you know, drove the Humvee, and we stopped by, the Marines got ammo. I've already told the story, but, you know, it was a hard mission, but the old dogs know how to make it a little easier. So if you get hard shit, you know, put in front of you, look to somebody who's been through it before. Take their input because it can help out a lot. There's another thing you get away with when you're the old dogs. You get to criticize the chain of command. A lot of times you can do it in their face. Because I can't tell how many times I sat in there with battalion and corps commanders, and I'm standing against the wall, listening to the whole op order and briefing, and then I'll be like, you know, raise my hand and talk about a glaring hole in the plan that everyone in the room saw, but didn't have the stones to say anything about. And if you're correct and you have tactics, logic, and reason on your side, they will get mad at you, but there really isn't much they can do. Sorry. I've did that dozens and dozens of times. Got yelled at by full-bird colonels, you know, 1- and 2-star generals. You know, getting yelled at by a general, it's actually fairly impressive because it's a one politically correct beatdown that you really can't outmaneuver. As long as they don't give you a Gomar, which is actually a written chastisation that goes in your file, yeah, it's just another ass chewing. Number 6, there's no substitute for experience. For instance, you're the platoon sergeant. You've been in the military 10 to 15 years. At this, you know, time in history, if you're in a combat unit, you have been deployed several times to a combat zone. You know the deal. You know the procedures. You have experienced direct and indirect fire for real, not a simulation. And then you get a 2nd or 1st lieutenant, been in the military 2 to 4 years. And they show up with all of these great ideas, dreams of grandeur and heroic deeds. And the platoon sergeant is just like, yeah, roger that, sir, yeah. And then when the rubber hits the road, the platoon commander or company commander is running off about his orders and what he wants done. And then the old dog raises his hand and is like, hey, sir, that sounds great, but that ain't going to work, and this is why. And then you say, well, you know, last time we did something like this is what happened for real. This isn't a simulation or something you read about in a book. Let's unfuck this whole thing. And a lot of I've talked to, you know, some sergeants where literally their commander would give an op order, he would leave, then the platoon sergeant would get up there and make the necessary modifications to the operation order, and then they would go execute the mission. I've seen it. I've heard that done. Kudos to those guys that do that because they're saving lives. All right, number 7, they look at you. If you've been around for a while, especially if you deployed and you're with a unit that's relatively new or green, when shit hits the fan, they don't look at the commander. They look at you because you have been through the ringer. I don't know if this is what they're taught. I think it's an instinctual thing myself, because I did the same thing. You know, when I was a young ranger and we were doing some crazy ass shit, I looked to the guys who jumped into Grenada. What they said, I took to heart. The lieutenant, who's at a West Point or what have you, you know, he can knock his ring all he wants on the desk. That is just noise. But experience stabs to the heart of the problem every single time. All right, here's another one. Remember that the old dog is the old dog for a reason. When you're out there knocking around in the real world and you run into that old crusty dude, he's got some tattoos of Marines or the infantry or whatever, you might want to have a little bit of caution for the old man who got old in a profession where men die young. Because he probably knows all the dirty tricks. He's not afraid to fight outside the boundaries, and he will fight to win. Not to win, place, or show. He fights to win. That's all that counts in his book. Doesn't have to be fair, because in reality, if you want to be the old dog, you gotta fight dirty. All right, gentlemen, I hope you like this. I know I ran off at the mouth a little bit, but, you know, reminiscing is good times. I'll talk to you guys later.